Hello, this is Susan Woods. Thank you very much for investing in the 20 Simple Steps to Starting a 501c3 Nonprofit Organization on-demand webinar. Congratulations on your desire to have a positive impact on your community. A little bit about me before we get into the on-demand webinar. I started a 501c3 nonprofit organization in 2003 called Comprehensive Community-Based Solutions Incorporated. I have facilitated what I call easy nonprofit classes since 2007, and so far I have over 700 clients who have taken the classes that I have facilitated. I am a 3-time graduate of Winthrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I earned a bachelor's degree in business administration, a Master of Arts degree in business education, and a Master of Business Administration degree. I am originally from a small town called Clio, South Carolina. About the services we provide through Susan Woods Consulting Services. We provide classes, workshops, and webinars to help nonprofit professionals start, fund, and manage nonprofit organizations successfully. We provide the following types of services: 2-hour classes, 4-hour classes, on-demand webinars, private consulting services, and 501c3 application services in which I actually complete the application process for clients. About the on-demand webinars. On-demand webinars provide a convenient and cost-efficient way to learn new information around your schedule, in the privacy of your home, and at a pace that is comfortable for you. You can also complete the webinars as many times as you like during a specified period of time. The webinar topics: the definition, the advantages of a 501c3, the disadvantages, the 20 simple steps to starting a 501c3 nonprofit organization, the waiting period that's required by the IRS, a review of what we've learned, and then closing thoughts. What is a 501c3 nonprofit organization? Well, it is the most advantageous category of nonprofits because you can attract tax-deductible financial support from the public and from various grants. There are 25 legal nonprofit codes. However, the 501c3 code is the most requested. The advantages of nonprofits or the advantages of 501c3 nonprofit organizations: you are exempt from taxes, you have the right to solicit funds, low postage rates, legal life of its own, continuous existence, and fiscal year flexibility. Let's take a look at those advantages in a little more detail. You are exempt from taxes. That means whenever you receive any form of revenue, whether it comes in the form of a grant, whether it comes in the form of tax-deductible investment from individuals, or fundraising activities, you do not have to pay taxes on the revenue. Secondly, you have the right to solicit funds, and that means you can actually ask people to make donations or investments in your 501c3 organization, and you have the right to let them know that their donations or investments are tax deductible and they can write it off. Low postage rates. That means if you choose to get the nonprofit rate for your organization, you can complete an application at your local post office or perhaps regional post office to have or to get the opportunity or to be approved to have the low postage rates that are available for 501c3 nonprofit organizations. Your 501c3 nonprofit organization will also have a legal life of its own. That means it does not belong to you. Even though you were the founder, or you will be the founder of your 501c3 organization, nonprofit organization, you don't own it. It has its own life. That's why you incorporated it, so that it will have its own legal life. Continuous existence. That means there should be some provisions in place that will allow your 501c3 nonprofit organization to continue even if you decide to retire or you decide to pursue other opportunities in your life. Your 501c3 nonprofit organization should be able to continue. And then the last one, the last advantage, is fiscal year flexibility. That means you can choose to have a regular calendar year to track the activities in your 501c3 nonprofit organization. And a regular calendar year is from January through December 31st. Or you can choose to have your fiscal year end in a different month. For example, a lot of nonprofit organizations have their fiscal years end on June the 30th each year. That is a choice that you can certainly make. So those are the advantages of nonprofit organizations. Let's look at some disadvantages. The disadvantages of 501c3 nonprofit organizations can be out-of-pocket expenses, incorporation fees, legal paperwork, lack of control, little flexibility, scrutiny by outsiders, and time-consuming. In the beginning, when you are in the process of establishing your 501c3 nonprofit organization, you will have to pay out-of-pocket expenses for things like advertising, for things like application fees, for postage fees. Anything that's required to help you get started are normally out-of-pocket expenses. Your incorporation fee itself is $850. So the Internal Revenue Service would charge you $850 to have your application process or your application reviewed. The legal paperwork that's required. Your organization is going to require legal paperwork, which includes, for example, your bylaws, your articles of incorporation, your conflict of interest policy. All of those documents are considered legal paperwork. The lack of control. As I mentioned before, this organization is not going to belong to you. Even though you started it, it's not yours. You don't control it. The organization is going to be controlled or managed by a board of directors. Little flexibility. That means once you have incorporated a 501c3 nonprofit organization and you have bylaws that are going to govern the operation of your 501c3 nonprofit organization, then there's little flexibility to change those bylaws. You can amend them. You can definitely amend the bylaws, but you don't have flexibility to go from one extreme to another in terms of the types of services that you're providing. Scrutiny by outsiders. Whenever you start a new organization, you can expect to have scrutiny by outsiders who are looking at your organization from a perspective that they may not understand. For example, they may not understand why you want to start a tutoring program for youth when they may feel the public school system is sufficient, and therefore they may say things about your organization that are unfair. And finally, time consuming. In the beginning, it can be time consuming to get your nonprofit organization up and running. My advice is to take at least a year to get all of your paperwork organized, to get your team members motivated, to get all of your roles and responsibilities established in writing, and then implement the program services that you want to provide. So those are the disadvantages, or it can be, depends on how you look at it, but those are the disadvantages that I see for starting 501c3 nonprofit organizations. So now we're down to the 20 simple steps There are 20 steps to starting a 501c3 nonprofit organization from my perspective. If you follow these steps in the order listed, you should be successful. Now, I would like to just take a moment to tell you where these 20 steps came from. When I started my 501c3 nonprofit organization back in 2003, I did not know what I was doing. All I wanted to do at that time was to provide basic level computer classes for displaced manufacturing workers, because during that time many manufacturing facilities were simply shutting down, leaving people without jobs, and unfortunately in many instances without the computer skills necessary to secure employment. That created a dilemma for me personally. I wanted to help. So I started doing the paperwork to learn how to create a nonprofit organization because a friend of mine encouraged me to go that route. Needless to say, I did not know what I was doing, as I said before, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. Some of those mistakes had financial impact, unfortunately. But after I successfully completed the application and was awarded the determination letter from the Internal Revenue Service, and a determination letter is just a letter that says you have been approved to operate a 501c3 nonprofit organization, it took me a while to get things up and running. Once I did, and once the community saw how successful the computer training programs were, I started to receive a lot of calls from people who wanted to know how to start their own nonprofit organization. Therefore, I decided to just take the time to write down the steps that I eventually used to start my 501c3, and thus this is the result. This is the class. These are the steps that I jotted down. Again, if you follow these steps in the order listed, you should be successful too. So let's talk about steps 1 through 5, and then we'll talk about the other steps. Step 1 is perform a needs analysis. Step 2, name the nonprofit organization. Step 3, determine the location of where your nonprofit organization is going to be. Step 4, define the purpose. Step 5, apply for EIN, which is the Employer Identification Number. Those are the first 5 steps that you should complete, the first 5 of 20. Let's look at the next series of steps. Steps 6 through 10. Step 6, facilitate community meeting. Step 7, list human resources requirements. Step 8, list tangible assets. Step 9, write comprehensive budget. Step 10, write your articles of incorporation. Let's look at the next series of steps. Steps 11 through 15. Step 11, file the articles of incorporation. Step 12, write the bylaws. Step 13, write the narrative of activities. Step 14, list potential partners. Step 15, write the conflict of interest policy. And the last series of steps, steps 16 through 20. Step 16, list fundraising strategies. Step 17, apply for charitable designation. Step 18, complete IRS Form 1023. Step 19, submit IRS Form 1023 for legal review. And Step 20, mail IRS Form 1023 to the Internal Revenue Service. So those are the 20 steps to starting a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Next, we're going to talk about each step individually. And by the way, I will break this 90-minute on-demand webinar into 3 30-minute segments. So after we reach the 30-minute mark, I will pause and allow you to take a break and then come back and go to the next 30-minute segment. Step 1. Step 1 of 20. Perform needs analysis. This is the step that most people skip because they believe they already understand the need in the community. And as a result, they're trying to meet that need. But this is a crucial step because it allows you to confirm that there is actually a need in the community for what you provide. So you want to do your research to provide the needs analysis. Now, a needs analysis can include something like a survey, questionnaire, focus group meeting, conversations around a table, but you have to find out that there is actually a need for the services. So, for example, let's go back to our tutoring example. Let's say that you want to start a tutoring service in your community. How do you know there's a need? What have you done to prove that there is actually a need for those services? Well, you may say, well, the children are not doing well in school, so they must need tutoring. Are you sure? Have you spoken with the parents of the children that you plan to help? Have you spoken with teachers to see why they're not doing good in school? Can it be because they're not doing their homework, or because they don't have homework, or what have you done to prove the need? That's the first step. In that case, I would recommend having a meeting with the people who you have identified to need your services. That's a part of the needs analysis. Who do you think needs your services? Describe them. Are they children? Are they in elementary school, middle school, high school? Since we're talking about a tutoring program. That's the first step. Prove the need. Step 2. You want to name your nonprofit organization. What are you going to call it? And this is the structure that you should use for your nonprofit organization. The organization's name, and that name will be tied to the employer identification number. And then underneath your organization, you may have up to 3 programs. Well, I shouldn't say up to. You can have as many as you desire, but I would not recommend any more than 3 since you're just getting started. The organization name is like the umbrella, and you want a name that will encompass the programs that you plan to offer underneath the organization. The organization name for my organization is Comprehensive Community-Based Solutions. I chose that name because it allows me to add programs underneath the umbrella that also meet the needs of the community. So your name should be broad, and it should reflect what your programs are going to provide. You notice in the program squares there are the blocks for the programs. I have DBA. DBA means doing business as the name of the program. So I have Comprehensive Community-Based Solutions as the name of the organization, and then for me, I have a program called Emerging Leaders Mentorship Program. And if I had another program, I would have its name in the middle box and another program and its name in the third box. Be careful about what you name your organization. It should be easy to remember. It should be something that people can understand. It shouldn't be already used by another organization. You want to confirm that it's not in use by anyone else. And you can confirm that by going to the Register of Deeds office in your city. You may want to go ahead and register it yourself so that it can always belong to your organization. Step 3. Determine the location. Where are you going to offer your services? Are you going to work from home? Are you going to travel around and offer the services? Are you going to have a building in which you're going to offer the services? Where are you going to offer your services? If you're going to offer your services from a building, we want to make sure that it is zoned correctly for the purposes of which you would need to provide services within that building. If you're going to work from home, you want to make sure your home is in a location where it is legal to operate from home. In order to find that out, you want to go to your local zoning office. You will have to pay a fee, and then they will look up your address to determine whether or not you can operate a nonprofit organization or any form of business from your home. So determine the location. That's step number 3. Step 4, define the purpose. Why do you exist? What is your vision? What is your mission? What are your goals? What are your objectives? Define the purpose. Your vision is your broad statement of why you exist. The broad intention of what you're planning to do. For example, you may say something like, we want all children to be able to read at the 4th grade level when they are in the 4th grade. So we want all 4th graders to read at the 4th grade level. That's a very broad vision. But it lets everyone know what your purpose is. The mission explains the vision. If you're saying that you want all 4th graders to read on the 4th grade level, that's your vision, then your mission statement should indicate how the vision statement will be realized. And if you want to know how to write a mission statement, envision the word by as a first word. By offering classes that are suitable for 4th graders to learn. Or you could say by offering classes in an environment that is conducive to the learning needs of 4th graders. But your mission statement, again, must explain how your vision statement will be realized. And then what are your goals? What are your goals? What are the goals that you plan to reach through this purpose? The goal is to have children ultimately perform better in school, pass their tests, pass their standardized tests the first time, gain confidence in what they're doing. Your goals can be quantitative or they can be qualitative or both. And then your objectives. Your objectives are tangible. They are quantitative. Your objectives will say something like, we want to have 100 4th graders reading on the 4th grade level by the end of the school term. Those objectives, or that objective, is tangible. It is measurable, and you can evaluate whether or not you have been successful. Also, most grant funders and individual investors invest their money, their financial resources, based on the objectives. Now, the vision, mission, and goals, they're good, they're important, but most people invest in the objectives because they can see them, they can visualize them. They can evaluate your performance based on objectives. And number 5, apply for the EIN, or Employer Identification Number. This number is required for all 501c3 nonprofit organizations because this number is what the Internal Revenue Service uses to track your performance over the years. So you want to, or you must, apply for an employer identification number. When people invest in your organizations, they ask for your employer identification number so that they can have the freedom to go to the Internal Revenue Service's website to investigate how your nonprofit organization is performing. Grant funders, especially the ones that have their grant applications online, also require the employer identification number, and they use it to check your status with the Internal Revenue Service before you are even able to complete an application. So this number is very important, and you will ultimately learn this number from memory because you will use it so much. Another use for this employer identification number is when you establish your bank account for your 501c3 nonprofit organization, you will have to use your employee identification number to even get a bank account at a bank. So this is a very important number to have. Well, we've gone over the first 5 steps of starting a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and now I'm going to pause because we're almost at the end of our first 30 minutes to give you an opportunity to review the information that you've learned so far, or take a break and come back. But we're going to pause the video, and I'm going to actually create a different link for the next 30 minutes. So thank you very much, and we will be right back.